Joining us now for 5 insightful minutes to discuss his company's latest current consumer sentiment survey is the A&M Consumer and Retail Group's David Schneidman. Dave, let's start with this. What does consumer sentiment look like going into the summer months?
First, thanks for having me as always, Chris and Ann. With the macroeconomic uncertainties, that is having a huge effect on consumers.
Yeah.
First it was COVID, then supply chain issues, then the war, no inflations, and now last tariffs. So consumers are planning on spending less, and they're planning on saving more during the financial uncertainties. They're not um, super worried, but they're being, I would say, a little bit more vigilant. In fact, about 10% of all consumers are expected to spend less, where about 30% of consumers are planning on saving more. Now, however, most of the cutting is coming from discretionary spending. So particularly think like restaurants, going out, prepared food, along with luxury goods, jewelries, and accessories. F&B, it is still around flat. We'll talk more about that shortly, but consumers are just being mindful of the unknown right now.
So, Dave, what kind of trade-offs are consumers willing to make then in search of a better value?
Yeah, so I mentioned that overall about just it's kind of there's not much change with F&B from a macro aspect,
Okay.
but particularly about 25% of consumers still do plan on cutting back within food and beverage. So think groceries, and with that, there's a couple of different ways. About 50% of consumers are planning on switching to cheaper brands. So cheaper brands is
Okay.
one option. The second is buying fewer groceries, which is around 25% of consumers planning on doing that. And the last is just switching to cheaper stores. So going to being more mindful of mass big box stores or discounters. And that's about the other 25%. Additionally, within that, consumers are more willing to try other brands right now. In fact, about 30% of consumers will try almost 10 new brands. And the leading factor of that is price. So price is having a huge impact on trial, but still wanting to be healthy, desiring to try new products, and then just recommendations from friends, families, and influencers are still having impact on consumer penetration.
Dave, what does all that mean for the private label side of the business?
Yeah, so consumers are increasingly embracing private label. Almost 75% of our report says that people are purchasing private label somewhat often or often. And over 50% of consumers believe private label has improved over last year. So private label is here to stay. Perceptions are at an all-time high in terms of quality, affordability, ingredients, accessibility. No surprise there. The leading driver of private label is purchase is price.
Hmm.
However, taste ingredients still make up about 25% of the main purchase influencing power factors. So price ingredients are here as well. So private label is definitely here. Huge perception improvement and needs to be part of a retailer's plan going forward.
So then, Dave, as we close, what advice do you have for retailers who kind of are trying to navigate these changing consumer sentiments?
Besides looking at price, having the right assortment and merchandising, two things that aren't talked about as often are about loyalty and technology.
Hmm.
Within loyalty, consumers are engaging in loyalty programs to
Mm.
stretch their spending power. About two-thirds of all consumers use a loyalty program in food and beverage and grocery. And it's about 75% of purchases within the loyal are influenced by loyalty programs. And that's even higher for consumers who are under the age of 45. So loyalty programs, huge. And then the other around technology, over 60% of our respondents interact with different technologies to influence their buying decisions,
Hmm.
particularly subscription. Subscription models influence about 75% of purchases. In fact, about 20%, yeah, it's crazy. About 20% of all grocery purchases are done 100% via subscription, which is crazy. So 1 in 5 consumers are doing all of their grocery shopping online. And about 75% are doing at least 75% of their grocery shopping online. So subscription models are here. And the main drivers besides deals and promotion, just convenience. We live in a world where people, time is money. They know what they like, they know what they don't like, and just that frictionless approach to grocery buying, which is a daily, weekly, monthly thing, is huge to the consumer. So don't forget about loyalty and technology, and they kind of go hand in hand. Huge impact to driving purchasing decisions.
Great stuff, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
If you want to read the latest consumer sentiment survey from our friends at the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, you will find it in full in our show notes from today's episode.